Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of the Wealth Cafe. And today is a special episode because I am joined by the amazing, incredible, she's also a financial advisor, Jessica Weaver. And I'm lucky to call her a good friend. And she is also the founder of the Wealth Boutique, which, for those of you who may not know, Tanis Financial Group, which is my financial planning firm, is actually part of the Wealth Boutique. So Jess is the incredible visionary behind all of that. And she and I are going to do a special State of the Union of the wealth management industry today. So, Jess, thanks for hopping on.
Hey, Caroline, thanks for having me. I am excited to talk about this. We talk about it offline a lot.
Mhm.
Now we're bringing it to the stage.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes recently, and it's just as Jess said, we've been talking so much about this behind the scenes, and we figured why not do a market update? We talk so much about the markets in terms of stocks, bonds, housing, um, different equity portfolios and how they're doing, but why not talk about what it looks like to work with an advisor and how that landscape is shifting? So, the first one that Jess and I have talked so much about is a lot of the shifts going on at big places like Vanguard, for example, who have added on a $25 fee every time you want to call in and place a trade. And they're also shifting their customer service model. So, Jess, how do you think this is going to impact the clients of Vanguard going forward?
This is going to be interesting because when you think of who has the largest amount of wealth, it's baby boomers.
Mhm.
And who's probably the least equipped with technology are baby boomers. So they're used to being able to pick up a phone and call somebody and talk with them versus the chat AI box on the side of the screen or sending in an email. I hate sending any emails to a customer service. I mean, that's the black hole. That's the kiss of death for this too. So I think sadly it's going to lead to a lot of mismanagement of distributions coming out, sales, not knowing what the process looks like, and then gosh forbid they're incapacitated and their power of attorney is trying to make these changes. I can't imagine what that workaround would look like if you can't just pick up the phone and call somebody at support. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get rid of that because they've grown so large. They
Mhm.
don't have the bandwidth to have one-on-one conversations with all of their clients of Vanguard.
It's
It's
also,
crazy.
yeah, and also too from a security standpoint, as you were mentioning with
Mhm.
someone's incapacitated, what happens there? When you have to call in, there's a level of authentication that has to happen. And so when you're logging into an online account, all you need is for someone to get your password. And I know on my end, and I'm sure you do this just with your clients too, like we know with certain language if our client sends us, if we're like, hey, that sounds out of character, that sounds misaligned with conversations we've been having. Or if I'm on the phone with a client, I know their voice, or we're on Zoom, we know who they are. When you're now just doing everything online, there's a whole new level of security risk that comes with that.
Oh gosh. Yes. It's scary. And the elder abuse fraud
Mhm.
is so high. It's trillions of dollars each year on top of it. And I've met with advisors at Fidelity, right? They have 2,000 households that they manage. 2,000. And why do they manage that many? Because, right, Vanguard, they're cheap, right?
Mhm.
So you have to do quantity. You have to
Yeah.
work with a lot of people. There's no way, as you said, they know all the ins and outs. They know how their clients speak, their language, what's going to be a red flag email or phone call. There's too many of them to keep track of. So it comes down to can they really serve their clients, protect their clients, be a fiduciary, right? Put the client's best interests at hand when they have so many people to work with. There's not enough hours in the day.
Which is funny because that leads into the other point that we wanted to talk about today. So, McKinsey released a report talking about the future shortage of advisors. So,
Mm.
as many of us know, a lot of the advisor industry is older men who many of them don't want to leave the industry.
Nope.
However, life cycle forces them to, we'll put it in the nice way. And so, however, as these people are either retiring, selling their books, leaving this earth, there are not enough new advisors coming onto the scene and taking up these roles. And so McKinsey reported that we're actually going to start to see a shortage of advisors, which
Mm.
to me, there's so much financial advice out there on the internet, but there's something so different when you are working one on one with an advisor.
Yes. There's advisors, they're in their 80s
Yeah.
and they're not going to retire. And they might be able to do it, but I've met with a few who they had a stroke
Hmm.
and they know that there's brain fog and it might all come back, but it might all come back in 2 to 5 years. They don't really know. Or my own father who had shingles, right? Out of nowhere. Fortunately, he had my brother there to step up. But if they don't have already that succession plan, who's going to be there in case a health crisis comes up, that's a really vulnerable place for clients to be in. And again, going back to what we keep talking about, and scary too. So I know what we need to do to get younger advisors interested in here, more, definitely more women to get interested in here as well. I think the traditional route of you see like the large insurance companies, they'll bring on hundreds of interns
Hmm.
and then they're going to train them and they're going to put them through cold calling. That doesn't work. You get maybe 10% of advisors by the second year who make it. 10% is not a high ROI, the amount of time and resources you invested. I think we need a different training path
Hmm.
for it. And I hope as we get more people, more advisors going to the independent space, that's going to open up for younger advisors to see there's more ways that I can do this business. It doesn't have to be that cold calling, wirehouse cookie cutter version of being an advisor. I can do it whether it's building out my podcast or my YouTube presence or my social media. Um, that there are so many ways that a young advisor could soar in this industry, but the training doesn't back that right now. I don't know, what do you think, Caroline?
As somebody who went through a training program at one of the large banks, like I remember left and right watching people just drop like flies. I mean, it was, you would just come in one day and you would just see their desk empty. And it was like, what happened to John? What happened to Jane? Like, and it was incredible. Like I can probably count to you on one hand. I don't even think I would need the full hand, the number that are still remaining from the program I went to. And I would say, I left that large bank in order to go onto the independent side. So I'm still in the industry. Majority of them have either left the industry of finance as a whole or went into different roles in finance, but stepped away from anything in terms of advisory. And a lot of it is, I'm thankful for the program I went to because it made me so um strong.
Resilient?
Yes, yes, resilient. That's a better word in terms of building things. However, you look at it and the way I build out my practice now is by connecting with people and meeting them where they are, right? By hosting this show, doing speaking events, workshops, connecting with people one-on-one and being able to provide resources rather than just creating this bubble of pressure that you just need to be focused on every single day. And that's another shift we're seeing too in the industry is, Jess and I are able to see on different advisor websites the outflow of people going from large banks and different wirehouses over to the independent side. And it's something we talk about a lot because a lot of these large places have just lost touch with the reality of working with individuals and meeting them where they are.
Yes, I agree. They've become what's the bottom line
Hmm.
versus who are the people that we're helping and serving
Yeah.
for it. And that's always a scary place to be at um, for it too. And I think back even before this trend of not having what is the growth rate of advisors, 0.3% article
Hmm.
that you sent me before. Think back to the stockbroker ages. So in the 90s, the early 2000s, there's a whole trading floor. People are buying
Hmm.
and selling, they're cold calling. I got a great stock tip for you and whatnot. We've seen that change shift into now manage money. So instead of it being transactional, now it's relationship focused. For it too. I saw this one client and he always asked me, what are the stockbrokers saying in your office? And I look, I'm like, stockbrokers.
You're looking around for them. You're like, I don't know. I
We're
can't
in the
find
Wolf of Wall
them.
Street. No,
They're
yeah,
stuck in
that
the
doesn't
80s.
happen anymore. It's not true anymore. Then we go into the managed wealth, which we've been in for several years, probably 15, 20 years, I would say. Just seeing my father's own timeline of this. And now we're migrating into this automation world. And
Hmm.
how is that going to shake things up? Whether it's digital platforms, the robo advisors, we saw that was early on for it too. Um, how do you integrate it? into the work that you're doing. But if it's a relationship, how do you maintain that relationship as you're going into this digital automated world um, in the financial industry? That's it's gonna be interesting.
It's also interesting because a lot of, I don't know if you get this question a lot in your practice where people ask you, how do you compete with the Vanguards, the Betterments, the Robinhoods? And I'm like, my clients are not on those platforms unless it's like their 401k is on that platform. They know and understand the value and the advice, and having this personal relationship that is the value that we bring. And it's they're rarely the people that are calling for what is the latest stock tip. They are the people that are looking so comprehensively at, okay, what happens if I'm to pass away early? Are my kids protected? Is my spouse going to know, who to contact? How are things set up? Yes, investments is a big piece of the puzzle, but it's not the entire puzzle. And so it's, especially with Vanguard, cutting a lot of ties in the customer service world, the clients that are going to come to us from that space are the ones that are like, I want a relationship. I want to know who to call, who to go to, and to take that bigger step than just going to the AI chatbot.
Yes. I mean, if you call the Vanguard or any of these large funds, it's an hour at least.
Mm-hmm.
An hour, right? We do these rollover calls with our clients all the time. And I remember one time it was 2 hours with Vanguard. The call dropped. We're like, no.
That is the
Did they call
worst.
us back? Did they call us back? No, they did not call us back. We then had to find another time, waste more of our clients' time to get their own money, access to their own money for it too. So I agree. It's what do you value? If you're valuing the lowest cost possible, then that's where you're gonna go. And that's what you're gonna get, right? You get what you pay for. But people who respect and value professional service, that relationship, and not having to figure it out all by themselves, those are people that we love to work with.
Right.
And that's never gonna change, no matter
And
what happens.
if anything, the way it is going to change is, as McKinsey said, with less advisors being on the scene. If you are looking to work with an advisor, now is the time to do it, because we, as Jess and I said before, we're not the advisors that work with 2,000 households. That's not people, that's households. That could be anything from a couple to a family and three generations inside of that. And we're not looking to work with thousands
No.
and all of these different people. Like, we take pride in having very curated relationships, working with people who we love, who we feel passionate about their futures. And I think that is something that's really different. And it's interesting because we also saw Ellevest is another female focused platform. They announced, whether it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week, that they are taking anyone under $500,000 is going over to Betterment and is now being put onto their robo advising platform, which was very shocking to hear. I know,
Yes.
Jess, you and I talked about this, but would love to share kind of the behind the scenes of our
Oh
conversation
my God.
and our surprise when this happened.
Shocked. It felt like they probably had a meeting. They're backed by venture capitals,
Mhm.
so it's not their money, right? They're being backed by. I felt, and I don't know what happened, but the the board probably met and say this isn't profitable anymore. We're gonna sell it while we can. We're gonna focus on high net worth clients over $500,000 or more. It doesn't even feel like it's a female platform anymore. It felt like they completely lost their identity. When I thought of Ellevest, I thought of women who are independent, single, working, maybe just starting out. I'm going to work with them, build my portfolio, grow, make it a bigger portfolio down the road. And they just completely cut that off of their company, which us being a female-led platform, that that blew my mind that you would do that to probably the segment that needs you the most.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It also, for me, people might be listening to us and being like, well, isn't that your competitor? Once again, we can't serve everyone, right? And so for
Yeah.
me, I also love to collaborate with other advisors and hear what they're doing and see more women in the industry. And so I firmly believe, and I know, Jess, you have a similar feeling as well, is like everyone has their right fit of who to work with. And we don't live in that like scarcity world of, oh my gosh, like those are our clients over there. No. So for me, it was kind of, it hurt my heart to see this shift happen. And all of these people who followed this mission, and I thought the branding and everything that went behind Ellevest was awesome, to then have them shift and move them off their platform was it hurt, right? To watch and see that shift happen again of, okay, great. Another time someone tries to build a financial female focused platform or firm, whatever it might be, it gets shuttled off because the focus was so heavy on profits. And don't get me wrong, like we are all for profits and making money, but was there another way is kind of the question I'd love to pose to them.
Oh, yeah. That's a good question. Yeah. It's like they lost their identity. It's
Mhm.
what cost? And they worked so hard. They built something amazing, well known, like an iconic brand in the financial industry. And then to sell the bottom part of it to a digital platform where they're not going to get the service that they probably signed up for. Um, it is disheartening because like, they're leading this movement, and for them to kind of lose their identity in it, it's like, okay, what happens to the rest of us? I don't
Yeah.
know, we gotta work harder, stronger, grow bigger.
Yeah, I think that really is the question of where we go from here. And I think, Jess, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But for me, it goes back to if you are a female breadwinner or the co-breadwinner of your household, you really want to be as a woman, the CFO. And everyone always asks, like, do we work with men? Yes, we do. We allow them here. You just have to be okay with some pink. Is take charge of that relationship now and don't stay on the sidelines because this industry is rapidly shifting and we are not AI chatbots and we only can work with a certain number of people. So if that's a relationship you are looking to start, whether it's with us or another advisor, like take that initiative now before you get locked out and can't even find somewhere to get into. So Jess, I'd love your thoughts as well.
No, I agree 1000%. Right? It's only going to get harder to find good, strong, independent advisors. I feel like we can't emphasize that enough. People who are independent, that are true fiduciaries. Right? That word gets thrown around way too easily now, for people who don't even work for it, but who have your clients' best interest at hand, that is not going to be sold off to a digital platform within a few years, and that completely changes everything. And now you're looking for another advisor for it too. And if you are an advisor who is looking at succession planning, right, you need to find that fit sooner than later, because that is a vulnerable piece to your practice, makes your practice less valuable by not having that in place already. And there's going to be less and less options for you. And don't pick an advisor that's your same age within a few year difference.
Mhm.
That's just going to cause a lot of turnover with your clients too. And I'm not saying their automation doesn't fit into a practice, or becoming more efficient with technology, and digitizing things, but when it comes to your money and that relationship, it can't be you and a robot, because ChatGPT gets things wrong about half of the time when I challenge it with these kind of things, right? There's it's not it's good to an extent.
Mhm.
And when you make a small mistake with money, you're on the hook for it. And a small mistake with money can be a lot of money. So you want somebody that really has your back. And you're right, it's going to get harder and harder to find us.
I also encourage, I get so excited when clients ask about, hey, like just out of curiosity, like what does happen? Like if something happens to you or you're sick or you're injured, incapacitated, just like I ask them, I love when they turn it back around on me and they say, what's your succession plan? Like, are you leaving in a year? Like what happens if you're, like I said, if you're sick? I love to tell people how we have other advisors at the Wealth Boutique and how we have different planning and we have these conversations frequently because we don't want to be the people that are 110 years old working at our desks, and want to have the planning in place and also keep more women in this industry and keep that moving forward. So um,
Yes.
just another
Yes.
reminder for more women to join the industry and to build that type of community around them.
Yes. And hopefully getting around that. I feel like there is an ageism for young advisors. They're
Mhm.
not taken seriously. But there's so many bright young people
Yeah.
that I would encourage you, if you feel like, no, when you find the right home that values, hears you, respects you, Same thing with clients.
Hmm.
That's where you go. So it's an incredible industry. It really is. And it's only, I think, going to get better and stronger as we see the floodgates open up and more people going independent.
Yeah.
That's going to make a huge change. Huge change. More innovative ways to work with people, more services, more white glove services. It's going to be incredible. Incredible. So thank you for having me on the Wealth Cafe. This is so exciting. My
Of
first
course. Of course, anytime. I think we need to make this an annual thing, doing an update and keeping
time.
people in the
That'd be so
know of what's going on in the industry. And we'll be doing more market updates too throughout the year. So make sure you are subscribed and tuning in. Thank you all for coming on. If you want to connect with Jess or myself, all of our information will be in the show notes. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.